Number 21. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. This list includes the rights that are considered A. Transferable, B. Legislated, C. Unalienable, D. Inherited. Number 22, using this cartoon above. The political cartoon above highlights which grievances from the Declaration of Independence. F. Colonists were forced to quarter troops in their homes. G. Colonists born in America were prohibited from holding elected office. H. Colonists were not eligible to become officers in the British Army. J. Colonists were required to serve a year in their colony's militia. 23. Which excerpt from the Declaration of Independence best explains why colonists were unhappy about their lack of representation in the British Parliament? A. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people. B. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. C. He has refused his assent to the laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. D. For transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretend offenses. 24. That all men are equally free and independent, and have certain rights of which they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest, remove, their posterity, future generations, among which are the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. In this excerpt, the authors of the Virginia Declaration of Rights are describing the rights they considered: F. Granted to the citizens by the government. G. Natural and possessed at birth. H. Protected under religious doctrine. J. Defined by the courts. (25) Articles of Confederation did not grant the federal power to tax or regulate commerce, did not establish a common currency, did not establish an executive or judicial branch. What did the list suggest about the drafters of the Articles of Confederation? A. They did not want the judicial system based upon that of Great Britain. B. They feared that a strong central government would abuse its power. C. They were uncertain that democracy would continue to be the best type of government. Or D. They did not think the state's governments could provide for the general welfare. Number 26. Why were Southern delegates to the Constitutional Convention willing to accept the 3/5 compromise? F. It increased the political influence of the South. G. It allowed indentured servants in the South to become citizens. H. It decreased the federal tax on property in the South. J. It allowed the South to expand its industrial output. (27) In the Republic of America, the power surrendered by the people is first divided between two distinct governments, and then the portion allotted to each subdivided among distinct and separate departments. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself. What assurances did this argument give to those who opposed ratifying the Constitution? A. The amendment process would allow state governments to nullify federal law. B. Making the federal government superior to state governments would ensure greater stability. C. The rights of the citizens would be better protected by having both federal and state levels of government. D. Giving greater power to the federal government would allow it to assist states in times of crisis. 28. And the excessive bail hath been required of persons committed in criminal cases to elude the benefit of the laws for the liberty of the subjects. And excessive fines have been imposed, and illegal and cruel punishments inflicted. Which U.S. document guarantees protection against these injustices? F. The Constitution. G. Declaration of Independence. H. Articles of Confederation. J. The Mayflower Compact. 29. Now, one of the most essential branches of English liberty is the freedom of one's house. A man's house is his castle, and whilst he is quiet, he is well guarded as a prince in his castle. James Otis. The provision of the Bill of Rights that reflects this same belief is A. Right to a fair trial by jury of your peers. B. Prohibition of cruel and unusual punishments. C. Guarantee against double jeopardy. D. Protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. 30. The question whether the judges are invested with exclusive authority to decide on the constitutionality of a law has been heretofore a subject of consideration with me in the exercise of official duties. Certainly there is not a word in the Constitution which has given the power to them more than the executive or legislative branches. Thomas Jefferson. Which constitutional principle is Jefferson referring to in this excerpt? F. Full faith and credit. G. Popular sovereignty. H. Federalism. J. Judicial review. 31. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, the U.S. Constitution. This provision is a response to which grievance from the Declaration of Independence? A. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. B. For abolishing the free system of English laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government. C. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the dispository of the public record. D. He has endeavored to prevent the population of the states for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners. 32. I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power in the hands of the husbands. In particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies. We will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. Abigail Adams. Abigail Adams wrote this excerpt in part of a letter to her husband John Adams. Based on this excerpt, what is she encouraging John Adams to do? F. Exclude women from journalism. G. Include women in a university education. H. Exclude women from military service. J. Includes women as part of the electorate. 33. The President shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present occur. The U.S. Constitution. This excerpt provides one example of which constitutional principle? A. Federalism. B. Individual rights. C. Popular sovereignty. D. Checks and balances. 34. No free man shall be seized or imprisoned, or stripped of his rights or possessions, or outlawed or exiled or deprived of his standing in any way, nor will we proceed with force against him, or send others to do so, except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. The Magna Carta. Which political idea was influenced by the provision of the Magna Carta? F. Due process. G. Federalism. H. A bicameral legislature. J. The social contract. 35. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equality arising under the Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties. The excerpt above first stated the principle that A. Only the courts may regulate interstate commerce. B. The President may veto federal legislation. C. The Supreme Court may declare a federal law unconstitutional. D. Only the President may issue an executive order. 36. The Eighth Amendment. Excessive fines cannot be imposed. Excessive bail cannot be required. Question mark. Which sentence completes this diagram? F. People cannot be forced to be witnesses against themselves. G. Cruel and unusual punishment cannot be inflicted. H. Warrants cannot be issued unless probable cause is established. J. A defendant cannot be denied a speedy and public trial. 37. Which law would be considered unconstitutional on the basis of the First Amendment guarantees? A. A ban on the publication of classified information by government employees. B. A requirement that church employees pay income tax. C. A requirement that churches get a permit before building a new chapel. Or D. A prohibition on electing religious leaders to government office. (38) That if any person shall write any false, scandalous, and malicious writings against the government of the United States, or stir up sedition within the United States, then such person shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $2,000 and imprisonment by not exceeding 2 years. The Act of the Fifth Congress, United States, 1798. Which constitutional guarantee did this act violate? F. Freedom of assembly. G. The right of due process. H. Freedom of the press. J. The right to trial by jury. 39. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The 10th Amendment. What was the purpose of this amendment? A. To encourage citizens to monitor the federal government. B. To prevent conflicts between state and local governments. C. To limit the authority of the federal government. D. To increase the participation of citizens in state government. 40. Which excerpt from the U.S. Constitution best illustrates the principle of popular sovereignty? F. Each house shall be a judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own member. G. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of several states. H. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a president pro tempore. J. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed by each state by the legislature thereof.